Hi everyone. Well, I was fascinated to find out why the 2025 Maverick EcoBoost, including the EcoBoost Lobo, the special sporty version of the Maverick for 2025, across the board, that EcoBoost Maverick is down 12 horsepower. I mean, what's that about? So 238 horsepower instead of 250 horsepower like the previous EcoBoost Mavericks have. So I did a lot of digging, a lot of speculation, and then finally found what appears to be a concrete answer. Now there's going to be links down in there in the description. I highly recommend that you check those out because that's going to give you the lowdown on what's going on here. But I will summarize and also add some other very interesting information about the Lobo Maverick for 2025 and a few other facts here and there. You know me. All right. So the basic reason is because there is a particulate filter that is now placed into the exhaust of the EcoBoost Maverick starting with the 2025 model year. Now, Ford patented this within the past several years or so, and there was shortly afterwards some testing that was done in Australia, and now all of a sudden it looks like it's going to end up being in the Maverick, and this is to meet California emissions requirements. Now already the smog rating for the Maverick was 6 out of 10. And to put that into comparison, last I checked, other than for a hybrid or of course an electric vehicle or something like that, the highest rating that you get, 10 being the best, the highest rating that you get from the EPA with just a standard internal combustion engine is going to be usually never higher than 7. So the Maverick is already at a 6 out of 10, which is almost as good as it usually gets, last I checked, for the smog rating. Now, that EcoBoost Maverick is a 5 out of 10 for fuel economy and CO2, but my personal opinion and observation, and I will say that this is scientifically backed, is that the smog is going to be a bigger factor when it comes to health effects, because the CO2, there's a lot of things out in nature that can combat that. So plants, trees, etc. But if you are inhaling smog, particulates especially, that can cause a lot of respiratory harm. So if you are inhaling those smog particles into your respiratory system, that's not good on multiple levels. I don't really have to tell you that, but I just wanted to point out that particulates are a bigger deal, especially on the short term, than CO2 is. Both can have their effects, of course, but those particulates are a big deal. Thankfully, the Maverick already is at a 6 out of 10. Again, one of the highest ratings that you can get for a non-hybrid, non-electric vehicle is going to be a 7 out of 10, and even that is relatively rare, last I checked. And you can find out this data from fueleconomy.gov. You can even download spreadsheets and so forth if you really want to get technical. But again, I'll include some links down in the description. Okay, so if 7 out of 10 is about the highest you can get, the Maverick is a 6 out of 10, great for an ICE vehicle, then why is there this whole particulate filter that saps 12 horsepower? Well, again, it's the more stringent rules in California that are now being followed more inclusively across the nation, if you want to call it that, for the auto manufacturers. Now, I believe that is a good thing overall. I think focusing on the particulate pollution is actually more crucial in the immediate future, and I know I just kind of said that in a different way, but let me state this, and that is, I think more manufacturers should do this sort of thing. However, this is the caveat. I think that when it is done, it should have little or no effect on the horsepower. So how would a manufacturer do this? Well, I'm not an engineer, but what I would say to do is to make sure that the engine can breathe more freely in other ways. So make sure that the intake and especially the exhaust is non-restrictive as much as possible. There's already going to be some restriction with a turbocharger in the exhaust. That's planned for, that's expected. But if you're adding in a particulate filter, then I would say do something like make a larger exhaust diameter, or make sure that the chamber for that filter is broad enough to be able to let the exhaust flow through that filter, still filtering out those particulates, but flowing through that filter and eliminating the particulates in a large filter so that the exhaust can spread out and it's not constricted in that filter that's essentially a blockage. And then have the exhaust pipe come out the other end at a decent diameter. Now, I have a feeling this is part of the reason why it is restrictive with the Ford Maverick. And you'll notice in the article about the patent, this key information is from Ford Authority. Both websites you'll see down below are from Ford Authority when it comes to the power being down for the Ford Maverick, why it's down, who was spoken to with Ford to get that official information, etc. Lots of great info. But I suspect that the reason that it is so restrictive is because already it could be as much as $4,000 to replace that particulate filter. And that is similar to a diesel engine particulate filter. But in any case, if it's already that expensive, then you can imagine that if you make the filter more broad to allow more flow from the exhaust, now you're having to pay even more money to get the filter initially, and then if you ever have to replace it, as I presume there will be a maintenance item for that filter, now you're having to put out that much more money at times of maintenance. So the costs go up, 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 and the popularity goes down, down, down if that sort of thing is going on. So I'm sure Ford had to come up with a compromise. All right, make it relatively large so there isn't a huge reduction in peak horsepower, but don't make it so large that the cost is completely exorbitant. So hopefully the material costs will go down in the future and the efficiency of the filter will go up. Just like any technology, costs go down and production efficiency, technology, advancements, etc. should be going up. Okay, so that's about all I have to say right now about that particular filter. I will also say a couple other quick things about it, and then I'm going to switch to another topic. So a couple other quick things. So number one, something that is restrictive on airflow, you're going to notice the biggest difference at the peak horsepower. And so unless you are flooring the engine or it's under high loads, those sorts of things, there shouldn't be that much of a noticeable difference. You are getting the same engine. That's what reports supposedly are saying, same engine, all of that. That makes sense. That's what everything seems to confirm. It's just the restriction in the exhaust is reducing that output power. All right, so next topic, and that is for the Lobo version of the Ford Maverick for 2025. It only has 7 speeds instead of 8 speeds. That's not correct. What am I talking about? It actually still has the same 8-speed transmission. However, Ford has digitally deleted one of the gears. And it has to do with how similar second and third gear are in ratio. check out the article that I included in the comments below for that. So in essence, what that boils down to is Ford said, hey, this transmission that we have been utilizing, it's been with a collaboration from GM, all of this over the past multiple years. This transmission happens to have what you might call an artifact in it. That artifact is from the original development, the partnership, etc., that resulted in the second and third gear ratios being almost identical. Because that 8-speed has 2 almost identical gears, you end up having one almost unnecessary shift when you are going from first to second to third. You can skip a gear in there. So Ford digitally deleted one of those gears so that you are going from what I recall it's first to third essentially, rather than wasting a shift and going up a few hundred RPM or so, and now you have to shift all over again from second to third. So check out the article, it gives you lots more details, but that's rather interesting, and it makes me wonder if there will ever be any other transmission updates that will give you a 7-speed mode or something like that for some of the other Mavericks. But in any case, the Lobo version utilizes that, and the Ford, I think it was the Edge ST, did the same thing. So it's still an 8-speed transmission, but the computer tells the truck to not use one of the gears that's already in that transmission. So it is rather interesting how all of this is put together. But I've got to hand it to Ford for saving money and making a really cool and exciting product. I think the compact sport truck market is ripe for getting something out there, and I really applaud Ford for taking that opportunity, and I encourage other manufacturers to do the same. And hopefully things keep getting more refined and better as time goes on. And who knows, maybe in the next few years you will see a Ford Maverick Lobo or something similar, maybe an ST version, who knows, that will have 250 or more horsepower and have a 7 or higher rating for the smog through the EPA. All right, I think that's all I wanted to cover for that today, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. See you soon.